Have you checked the children? Your little mess
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Fuego here.
And we are joined once again by a special guest who is going to be telling us all about some really cool horror movies that anyone in the Arizona area has a chance to come and see as a part of the Phoenix Film Festival and the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival. And there is a ton to talk about. We've done this at least one, if not 2 years in the past few, but Monte Yazzie is here. He is the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival director, and he is going to be telling us all about the awesome horror movies that we are going to get to see way ahead of everyone else, because inevitably the movies that we see at this festival end up getting released usually, 6 to 12 months later on some service.
It just depends. I mean, sometimes they're available already on streaming services, but I mean, the pandemic threw a lot out of whack in the last two events with not taking place during their, usual time of like late March, early April. But we're back to, everything proper, although it was very fun in the fact that we were just talking with you last August for this, and now we're right back at it. So, yeah, it's
Indeed.
cool.
So welcome, Monty. Welcome back to the channel.
Thank you so much, Horror Show fans. You know how much I love you guys. I'm really glad that we can be back here again to talk this great festival, and also to kind of welcome people back to these in-person events. So we're really excited to be here again. And again, you guys do wonderful work. So excited to see you guys grow over these past few years. So it's a huge pleasure.
We appreciate it, sir.
Oh, yeah.
And Fuego has done the requisite research. So I'm going to let him kind of take over the reins at this point, and I'm just going to act like the layman audience member that doesn't know anything about what you've programmed, because I kind of don't. Having a 17-month-old boy, it makes things tough to keep track of. So
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
He's
grown up
doing
so
great.
So,
all right, Fuego, what do we got to go over?
Yeah. So Monty, the one thing that I just wanted to at least start this off and ask you, man, is a longtime friend of mine, way back to when we were in grade school and everything, but we didn't really become like a little bit, I don't want to say close homies because you were a few years older than me, and I was like sponging off of you and the older, cooler kids and stuff when it came to horror and stuff like that.
I had a guy like that too.
But so as far as the awesomeness of our reconnection, and even more so just getting to cover this festival with, that you put so much time and, pain, I would imagine, and passion into putting together. So what is this distinction between if something is relocated as a showcase versus like one of the features? Is it because those are bigger and have made their rounds on a lot of other festivals already, like Sundance or Fantasia or whatever? Or is it more on like the legal side of things, or like how does that go?
Trying to tell Monty he's got sloppy seconds or thirds? What's going on there?
Did not say that at all.
So the simple term would be, we have films that are in competition and we have films that are in showcase.
Cool.
And to get into a competition feature, you have to submit your film to the festival. And based on the bank of films that we get, we take those movies, sort them through, and pick what we think are the highlights, and that's what goes in the competition. Everything outside of that realm is things that are handpicked by myself and the team of other programmers that we have that are picking stuff out of the genre. So
how does one get to be on that team, Monty, is what I'm curious about.
So typically you've been with the festival, or you're associated with the festival in some way, shape, or form. But
what is this, like year 5 for us? I think that counts. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, we're just press. Is Danny?
Don't you dare say just press! How dare you?
Is Danny Marianano still a part? Is he still helping out with the shorts?
Danny Marianino still our shorts festival director, so he is in charge of all of the programming for our short films. He does both program houses. Brandon Kitchen, and those two guys have been doing it now for, I think they're in year well over 15, 20 years that they've been doing it now.
Damn.
But Brandon's been doing the feature presentation now for years now, and he those two guys are still the horror guys. On the sci-fi side, we have Mike Stackpole. Michael Stackpole is a very talented author in his day job, and he loves sci-fi. So he does all of the sci-fi programming, the horror or the sci-fi shorts and the competition features.
Okay,
But,
cool.
yeah, but that's like the simple way to kind of designate like your competition films or your feature competition are movies that were submitted, and your showcase are movies that are kind of handpicked.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's
That's
go through what we
simple
got.
as that. So yeah, because on the showcase side of things, many of these I had already heard at least the name thrown about, or within like horror press that just take a peek at other contemporaries and whatnot. That most notably Piggy was the one, because I know that got a lot of buzz at Sundance and dealing with some like various stuff, as far as like body issues, as far as weight, and also like bullying and things of that nature. I've just seen that very evocative still, and just how it induces emotion. That's for sure. It's from Spain. It made its premiere at Sundance. What can you say about this one?
So Picky started as a short film, and it kind of made its rounds across, and before you knew it, the director wanted to expand on that world a little bit more. And this movie dropped, I believe it had its world premiere within the last few weeks. It played at Sundance recently. And the movie is, it's one of those films that I just love, because it really is somebody who loves the genre, who takes this idea of, this social commentary about bullying, about, how people make fun of other people because of their weight, how people who have weight issues play a specific role in horror films as well too, and it kind of turns it on its head, and really provides this really interesting and compelling story about how bullying can push somebody to a point where they're forced to make really, really tough decisions. And this movie does exactly that. The lead performance is fantastic, and the director is just fantastic. Just understands what exactly they want to do with this film, and it takes some unexpected twists and turns, but it's a great time, and that's our Saturday night highlight at the festival. So, our Friday night highlight at the festival.
No, it says Saturday on the
Oh,
schedule.
it says Saturday. Okay.
Yep.
I'm getting to the point now where all the
They're all
my
working
dates and
together.
times are so confused. I know.
That hits a little close to home, Fuego.
That's well, I
gonna
think
have
the
to-
next one may hit a little more closer to home
Oh,
based
no.
on the name of a certain character. But no, I think this is really important stuff to be exploratory about, especially how like the whole moral
I certainly
quandary.
wasn't called Drew the Big Fat Pooh all growing up. I swear to
Oh,
God. I wasn't.
No,
Oh my
but
God.
in the next film that I'm going to mention of Monty, and I think he knows the segue that I'm going into with the name Cecil.
Oh no!
Yeah, there's
I got two films to watch out for.
well,
shit.
no, not to watch out for, but
Triggered.
this is the one that obviously I've heard nothing about, Monty, and I'm really curious to hear a little bit more from you about this. So it's a film called Bitch Ass.
Oh,
And-
Yep.
that's what you. That's
Yeah.
where I'm associated. It's a
No,
film
yeah,
called
it's,
Bitch
it's,
Ass.
it's obviously as somebody
Fantastic.
who was.
I'm not
like,
taking the back seat anymore. after
Okay,
this
okay.
episode.
Monty remembers when I was a chubby kid with Coke bottle glasses and a flat top, man, and I took a
yeah.
lot of heat back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Not from him and like his upper level kids as much, but like kids around my age.
Gotcha.
You
Yeah,
know,
no,
wearing
I feel you.
Red Ronald McDonald shoes and stuff. But so this one is called Bitch Ass, and it does have a narrative about, at least in the synopsis, about a character named Cecil who finds himself in a gang initiation sort of situation.
Yep.
And it's an all black ensemble of a lot of talented peeps, including Tony Todd. I'm
Cecil
not sure
is
the
a more
extent of his
traditionally
role
black
in
name,
this,
I've found.
but yeah, this is one that I was really curious what the tone would be. If it would be anything comedic at all, or if it was going to be just stone cold, very serious. What can you tell us about this one, man?
Stone Cold at the end of the day is a slasher, a modern slasher.
Oh hell yeah!
It is
Big star by that one.
It is extremely influenced by Snoop Dogg's Bones.
I
So
love
that's my
Bones.
yeah.
Great movie.
So do
I
I.
love
I.
Bones.
Is that
God damn, do I
Dickerson,
love
the
that
same
movie.
guy who did Demon Knights? I'm trying to remember.
Dude, I've got
I'm
Bones.
losing all
I
my
believe
memories.
so, yeah.
Straight, like
Yeah.
like 5 steps that way is
Yeah.
Bones on my shelf. I love that movie.
No, yeah.
Yeah, this movie definitely feels like someone watched Bones when they were in high school and decided this is my favorite movie and I'm gonna try to do something with it. But yeah, it's a completely black cast. It's directed and written. The whole everything from start to finish is really composed around this idea that black voices are not often the storytellers in films, and the fact that in genre film, black characters have been predominantly pushed into this area where, they're the ones who die first in a movie, or now that the commentary is changing recently, this film does a wonderful job of really taking that idea and turning it into something that is pretty gruesome. There's some really ingenious kills. There's a lot of blood. There's a great lead character in the movie. Your villain, your slasher character is fantastic. And it really feels like it was a bunch of filmmakers who are trying to create a new modern villain, a new modern monster who is black, and who we don't have to just say, oh, it's Candyman only. Yeah. Like, it can be somebody else. So it's very well done. The filmmaking crew are fantastic. They've been completely cooperative, and we're really excited when we first invited them to the festival. They're super excited. So we'll have some announcements from them coming up as well too. They've been doing some commercial stuff for us, so we're gonna probably drop a cool director, writer, video here in a few weeks.
Are there going to be any filmmakers at the festival that you'd like us to talk to, maybe?
Well, the hard part about the filmmakers is we didn't really formally invite a lot of people this year, primarily because of the issue with COVID. We wanted to make sure people were comfortable, and we didn't want to, extend the welcome and feel like they had to come. We wanted them to make that decision on their own. But we do have some people who are confirmed. And Jaime, do you mind if I transition to the next one? Is that okay?
No, please do.
Yeah.
Please do. Yeah.
So this one lies more in the realm of sci-fi fantasy, but the EK Boys
is
our opening night film. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was Ike Boys, so I'm glad you started with it.
Yeah, EK. It's got the little distinction on top of the E.
Well, not on the schedule, it doesn't.
Yeah, the EK Boys is we're gonna have the whole team. I don't know if the whole team's coming, but definitely the director will be there for opening night. They are festival alumni as well too, so they had a couple movies that have been in the festival throughout the last 10 years. But the EK Boys, in really short description, is if you're a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan, this movie is for you.
Yes.
So,
and it's in the IHSFF. That is good news to me. I mean, that's what fucking Psycho Goreman almost could have said. You know what I mean?
Perhaps.
Love that kind of stuff. I mean,
to a degree, this one seems much more on the, because I know you guys have programmed some more, I don't want to say kid-centric, but just more acceptable, not like hard art sort of stuff. And this one seemed very interesting on paper. It's a group of kids, and two, and then one is an exchange student, if I remember
correctly. I trust. Look, in Monty, I trust when it comes to that, because we saw Summer of '84 at IHSFF, and we also saw MSTK at IHSFF. Those are two of my favorite what I consider a kid horror movie of all time. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to derail.
The EK Boys is a great film because it really is that crossover film. We want to make sure that we have films programmed for every kind of sci-fi and horror taste. And the EK Boys kind of ticks that box of it's basically a group of Japan-obsessed anime guys from Oklahoma who are endowed with superpowers of their favorite anime. And then we move forward, and the movie becomes basically a fantasy superhero film. But there's some great there's some great animation that they've built into the film. The kid performances are fantastic, and there is a cameo by a very well-known actor, and
I saw it on the IMDb, I think.
Oh, you saw it on there?
Yeah, unfortunately, which is maybe a spoiler, but I'm not saying who it is. But yeah.
Don't say who it is.
I almost mentioned it in a preamble sort of scenario, but yeah, glad I didn't.
Well, we're 3 for 3 so far in movies that I really want to see this year, and I don't think I had as strong a reaction last year, so I'm pumped for this year already.
Yeah, well, the segue that I had for EK Boys was a film called Moonheart, because of the fact that just from a standpoint of a connection that a particular character makes in this film with something she sees on TV, and it's a Peruvian film, if I'm not mistaken. Original title El Corazón de la Luna, translates into Moonheart. It's gone through a few different title transitions for the English-speaking audiences, but it appears to be an elderly woman who sees something in either a restaurant or a bar, and then her metallic angel, or however she describes it, kind of appears to her. And so I got similar vibes, at least as far as a metallic superhero, transitionary from the stuff I used to watch in the 90s as a kid, but also kind of a somber and sad bit to her life, and just the happiness and not super horror, and so that's where I'm curious if you can at least expand on the tone a little bit about this without spoilery sort of stuff.
Of course not. Of course not. So Moonheart was one of those movies where, when you're in a film festival and you're kind of in charge of programming, you get to know a lot of programmers across the US, and we all sit and chat about like, hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen that?
Nice.
Hey, Monty, you should be on the lookout for this. And I had somebody from the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival reach out to me, and they're like, holy smokes, Monty, Moonheart, have you seen this movie? And I was like, I haven't even heard of it. So I went to their website immediately, started looking through it, and I was like, holy smokes, this movie like looks really engaging and it looks really great. And then came the hard part. This is kind of the behind the scenes of festival programming life, but trying to track an international film down with no distributor, no American stateside, idea of where it came from, is pretty hard. So we had to, kind of venture out and find some new avenues to find the filmmakers of this film, and we were able to find them. And we are the third or fourth screening, I think, worldwide of this movie. So, but Moonheart is basically a story about grief. It's about aging, and it's kind of about bullying and ageism as well too. And it's pretty much a silent film. Like there's,
okay.
yeah,
I love that sort of storytelling.
Yeah, there's little bits here and there where people are talking, but for the longest, like the beginning of the movie, I think the first 15 minutes are pretty much all in silence. All you have is ambiance going on.
I absolutely love that sort of storytelling. The brief stint in the early 2000s of the Marvel comics where they had 1 month of the Nuff Said comics where none of them had dialogue. Mm-hmm. I love that stuff. I love dialogueless storytelling. It can hit you so much harder than stuff with dialogue sometimes. So that's exciting as hell for me.
Yeah, the lead performance is fantastic, and it's won every festival feature award that it's been in. So I'm excited. I actually had the opportunity to we pre-screen a lot of these already. So so this is one that when I was watching, I was just like, wow, like it's just a marvel of filmmaking, because it doesn't come from an experience like a really, really experienced group of filmmakers, but their passion and ambition behind it is very, like, it's very prominent on screen.
Sweet. Okay, since I know when Monty is on limited time and such, so Gatlop is another one that I kind of get the vibe it's going to be more of like a horror comedic sort of situation. I'm a big fan of Emery Raver Lampman. She's on the Umbrella Academy, does a terrific job there.
Okay.
I just recently saw her in a little lackluster Liam Neeson film, but
is she the Whisper? Who is she in Umbrella?
No, I'm trying to recall the name of her character.
All right, no worries.
Yeah, inconsequential. But so, is this one like one of the comedic with some horror elements sort of showcases? I got kind of Game of Death vibes a little bit, which you showed a few years ago. I don't know. Any similarities or very much its own?
So Gatlop's a little different. It's first off, really proud of this one because it's a world premiere. So this will be a world premiere at our festival.
I was wondering if we had
and that is the Friday night at 9:40 feature.
Correct. Yep. Friday night at 9:40. Gatlop is, in simplest terms, it's basically Jumanji meets Saw.
Ooh, you got my heart. Damn, that's 5 for 5.
Yeah,
fuck, I'm gonna have problems this year. I'm gonna be busy.
You're getting a little older, so
damn.
Yeah, Gatlop's really fun. It's great cast. They play it really straight for laughs. Like going from the very beginning that it's going to be something that's going to be fun and kind of shocking at the same time. But the horror hits real nicely, and the comedy is very genuine. But yeah, really fun one, and I think definitely you guys will like that one, especially if you like those crossover comedy horror things.
100%.
Love the balance. Yeah.
Well, now I got to decide between Bitch Ass or Gatlop on that first Friday. Shit.
So Monty, I know we have a selection of a few French films that are coming through the ranks, and in keeping in the theme of comedy with horror, or at least the vibe that I kind of got from reading about. Oranges, sanguines, but bloody oranges. Essentially, just the description alone of it's a dance competition, but there's all of these other weird pieces going on with tax evasion and the corrupt politicians and the old.
You got a wide variety this year, Monty. I'm impressed.
I know.
He always programs it, man. Yeah.
So Bloody Oranges is the film. There has to be a little bit of a story before this one. So About 3 years ago, I put this movie out called One Cut of the Dead.
Oh
and
my
you guys
God.
know
Love
this
it,
movie.
love it, love it.
I saw it before everyone else because of your tweet. I caught
I
that
know.
one day. I got the one day that was on Prime before they dropped it.
I still have yet to watch the thing they did during the pandemic where it was like virtual kind of thing.
That
was
and
on
I have
YouTube.
One Cut of the Dead in Hollywood, and I haven't watched that yet either. Have you watched that one?
Yeah, I have. They're all One Cut of the Dead. The first one is such a unique thing that everything else after that is still really great, but just doesn't quite compare to that first one.
Gotcha.
But One Cut of the Dead, I stood in the hallway because I knew people were going to walk out and they were going to be like, I can't do it. It's dizzying. I don't
You were
like
just
this.
telling them, don't.
And
Just
I
go
said,
back.
wait, please wait. I will probably have to do the same thing with Bloody Oranges.
Oh no.
Bloody Oranges is social commentary and satire, political satire at its highest degree. The first 40-something minutes of the movie is a dance competition. It feels like almost like a rom-com dramedy.
Like Bring It On.
It feels like a whole different movie. But about the 45-minute mark, something happens in the movie, and we get a hard shift, and the rest of the film is a nightmare. So, if you can stick in for that, and if you like your films with a healthy dose of social and world social and political commentary, this is definitely the film for you, because it is using the genre to say a very, very strong statement about government, about politics, about elected officials, about history, about all those pieces. And it's definitely that movie that when it came through our programming ranks, I was like, well, this is that movie that is going to be, people are either going to buy into it and stick around for it, or I'm going to be waiting in the hallway saying, hey, just hang on, this movie is different. So, but I love that kind of movie, and I'll never forget the feeling of satisfaction when people walked out of One Cut of the Dead and they were completely blown away. And by no means am I comparing the two; they're completely different films. But the feeling of having to tell somebody, just hang on, something's gonna happen. So, but yeah, I'm excited to see what people think about that one. There are many films I program that, I know that people aren't going to see otherwise. If you're not going to go to a festival, you're probably not going to find it. So, for those films, those are the ones I feel like that we're helping and we're saving and we're giving back to audiences, because, I don't know where else that film is going to exist, because, it's hard to describe what it is at its core, but it definitely is something that people should watch.
Well, and those sort of amalgamations, in my estimation, when they work, are some of the most ambitious, and they can really hit you in those best possible feels, man. I'm still wondering how that French remake of One Cut of the Dead, because I know they pulled it from a few festivals, and I don't know if it's even premiered anywhere yet, but
I tried to get a copy.
Yeah.
Couldn't get one.
So, Monty, since I know once again time is limited, we're just gonna breeze through there's a couple more French features that are here, and I'm gonna save the one from the most notorious director for last. But what can you say about Superior? Because this is the one I probably know the least about. That's the other French film, right?
Yes, Superior is the best ode to David Lynch and Brian De Palma that I've seen in a long time. I don't want to give too much away. If I tell too much about it, it's gonna ruin it for people. But just realize it's a amalgamation of everything you love about Brian De Palma and the strangeness of David Lynch, kind of mashed into one film for a thriller. At the end of the day, it is a story about identity and kind of family, and finding that weird connection where all of these pieces kind of come together for this one woman and her sister.
It's a twin, right? If I remember correctly.
It's a twin in the movie. Yep. But the lead performance is fantastic. The style is really, it just pops with style the entire way through. And it's one of those quick hitters. It's I think less than 80 minutes, and it's one of those movies that I think, for those late night spots, it's definitely the one that you're going to just encounter and just be kind of, wow, that was its own unique little vision. And again, yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm realizing that was not. I got my titles fludged up, because the French film that I was thinking of was Homebound, right? The one that was at the one that was at Fantastic and Beyond, right?
Yep. Homebound's the I believe it's French. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to say just really quickly before we go to Gasper about that one?
Homebound's creepy kids, man. We all like a creepy kid story, and this is one of those creepy kid films where the kids definitely do not like the house guests and do not really like their parents.
Oh, and this one is
I thought we
was
might have done a
UK,
reaction
now
to
that I'm thinking
that,
about
but
it. So,
I could be wrong.
I'm a derp. So yeah, Homebound, if I remember correctly, gave me, at least from the trailer, and that's when you've got this whole cycle of stuff and notes getting crisscrossed and everything. This one gave me kind of a vibe of The Lodge a little bit, just like minus the cold, with like new girlfriend with father and mysteriousness of what's going on with the kids. But I could tell it was very distinctive and differential, and what they were attempting to do. And yeah, this was a UK film, so man, I'm just fludging it all at this particular point. But
Well, Homebound is that movie too. I think that it creepy kid movies depend solely on how good the kids are
truly,
as actors, and Homebound has great kids in the role. And there's a lot of times where, like, the filmmaker, we all seen that movie, that one scene where kids, like, looks like they're coloring at a table and they just kind of look over their shoulder, and you see them down a long hallway and they just look like the most sinister things. And Cecil, you'll definitely know this. You have a beautiful angel of a baby right now. That beautiful angel of a baby will be 5 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, and then at least one time during that time, they're gonna look at you and you're gonna be like, "That kid wants to kill me."
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it
As
at
a
all.
father of two myself, I can tell you very distinctly there have been times where I will tell my kiddo, "Hey, you have to go do something you really don't want to do, but you got to do it now." And the look I get, it softens me.
He mean
How
mugs me now.
scary,
So
yeah.
yeah, I get it.
But yeah, Homebound is definitely a film. It's one of those great films too. I think that it's a great filler film. And when we talk about like festival films, right? There's often times where when we build the schedule, we're working at finding that balance of, like, we're going to give you a healthy dose of everything that's going to work for you throughout your stay. If you want to watch everything that is in the horror competition and feature showcase films, we want to find that balance, that you find a nice healthy dose of a bunch of different stuff throughout the day. The last thing I want you to do is go watch 3 completely, soul crushing films in a row and have you depressed to come back to the festival later on. But so it is that balance, and I think Homebound is that nice little balance of, like, really traditional horror movie stylings, stories that, a story about these creepy kids that we've seen many times before, and but there's just something really ingenious about the way they do it here.
Nice. And I know that's something that you've mentioned before, where it's like sometimes you can envision the perfect double feature, and then there's other times where, because those two would play together. But then in other situations, you're like, okay, if you're picking and choosing, you don't want to have something that is just going to crush and ruin your day, and you're like,
Correct.
Do I want to go back and see something else on Sunday after already having been there Friday and Saturday? So, yeah. Well, since I'm the one who will admit all the mess-ups for getting region stuff, back to what I was attempting to kind of segue back to with the French stuff. So Gasper is a very kind of polarizing director in a lot of ways. Enter the Void. So I don't know if Vortex is available over here just yet, because I know he made that after the film that we were talking about now, which is, I don't know if it's Lou Artierna or Lux Artierna. I mean, I took French in high school, Monty, and I know more Spanish now, hence the moniker. So I definitely am not too good on that. But I love Charlotte Gainsbourg, and even though this is only a 50-minute film, I think I might get this guy on board for it based on kind of the premise of the fact that it's
you'll get me
about
on board
film.
just for the fact that it's the length of a TV episode.
But it's about filmmaking. It seems like it's kind of poking fun at it from the little trailer that I watched. Visually stunning as all of his stuff is, and it's about
Gasper Noe made it, and it's 50 minutes long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So-
it's about witches. So I'll let Monty take it
So
from
the
here.
background of this movie is it was supposed to be a commercial for a famous fashion designer, and that turned sideways because Gaspar, got inspired on set and decided to make something wholly his own.
He does
This
that.
movie is a commentary about the filmmaking process. It's a commentary about actors and set life and all of these things that happen behind the scenes. Beatrice Dow plays one of the characters along with Charlotte Gainsbourg. And these two on screen, these two icons of, like, really like modern artistic films, just wax poetic about the process. And it's super fascinating to watch these two discuss the process. And you get this like hilarity that kind of ensues from the people that are on cast, your camera guys, your sound guys, all these other people that are there, but they're prepping for a big scene, and the big scene is they're going to be burned at the stake. And the ensuing piece of this is that something goes terribly wrong, and mayhem and carnage and all these awful things take place. But we do have to put it out there, specifically for audiences who may suffer from any kind of strobe or light affected epilepsy, that this movie does have some pretty aggressive strobing and light effects. And if you fall into a category where you may be affected by that kind of stimulation with light, this is not the film for you. But definitely one of those movies that by Gaspar, he's a challenging director. So every film that you go into, you're either going to admire and think it's a work of art, or you're going to say, wow, I don't have any idea what they were trying to say there. And me personally, as a Gaspar, I call him Maestro. That's my name for Gaspar. He is, to me, one of those filmmakers that no matter what he does, I'm going to go out and watch, because I know I'm going to get something that is unlike anything else that's out there. And that's something to be said for this one. And it's only 50 minutes. So
it sounds up my alley.
Yeah.
I missed Gaspar's last couple movies. What else did he do that was...
Well, there was Climax that I most
Climax,
recently
I didn't
watched,
see,
and
yeah.
that was challenging at times, but it was because having expanded my mind previously without getting into specifics, it made me feel like I was kind of on drugs, because
Gotcha.
it's a major plot point within the film.
Fair enough.
So
Okay, well, Lux Aeterna, I'll keep that in mind then. Okay.
well, so as we're running out just the last couple of the showcase before we just do a quick run through the actual feature stuff on the horror and sci-fi side. So the Karma Link is one that, from having previously explored Buddhism extensively, especially being raised very hardcore Christian, Reformed Baptist and everything, my father being a Bible teacher, and yet thinking more about the aspects of reincarnation and meeting those again that you have previously. I did watch the trailer for this one, and it's a Cambodian film, if I remember correctly, and it really just kind of harkened me back to those explorations from a religious standpoint of, like, seeking the Eastern mysticism, as opposed to, the very Western sort of mindset that I was entrenched with. And so, any details you could give about this one, because it does look like there is a bit of a budget. It's visually striking. There is a moment in the trailer where a character mentions having met another one before, and it just kind of hit me. That thoughts on this one, man?
Karma Link is beautiful. The cinematography, the locations, that kind of it movie just kind of delves into culture in Cambodia. It's just a really beautiful frame to build a story in. Then you get two characters, two young actors, a boy and a girl, who meet and decide to take this journey about the past, the future, the present, all in this very culturally rich environment. The sci-fi of it all is tech-based. So it's really interesting how they utilize this technology, and how you can kind of get an idea of your past life dreams and the future and all these different pieces. But the story at its core is a story about two people trying to find their way through life, and they're at that turning point as young people where they're about ready to lose that innocence, that complete innocence of being young, and transition into that hard realities of adulthood. And there's no other way to explore, I think, sometimes difficult conversations about that than to think about it in terms of a sci-fi, or to frame it into this world of fantasy. And but yeah, at the end of the day, it's beautifully shot, wonderfully acted, and the narrative about technology and sci-fi and science kind of melding together to give you this idea of what your life could look like, are all very well done. Definitely a highlight for the sci-fi side, for folks that want to, take an opportunity. That's our one sole film on Sunday, the first Sunday of the festival. So
nice, yeah. And as somebody who, as I was saying with the previous film, has been psychedelicized, to quote Jim Morrison and everything, these are definitely things and themes specifically that I've thought a lot about, and I love that sort of deeply contemplative, trippy-ish, sci-fi, which the next one, as we are rounding everything out, Hypochondriac, I know it was just showcased recently at South by Southwest. It seems maybe to be more on the horror-ish side of this sort of contemplation or hallucination or whatever else. Is there any comparison connections between these two as far as themes explored?
Same themes of identity are explored in this one, but a lot different in tone for both films. Hypochondriac is the story of a young Hispanic gay potter who loses the ability to create his art, and he starts to have physical manifestations of his childhood trauma. But it's a beautiful film about identity, and a beautiful film about like what it means to be an artist in today's world, and what it means to be to have an identity that maybe a lot of people don't accept. And throughout time, there was a point in time where people had to hide that identity from people. And the fact that these films are now exploring those pieces and providing voices to people who can express these fears and these anxieties and these past difficulties, so that we can continue to learn and move forward. I think what better way to do that than through something like artistic, and through what my favorite vessel of art is, which is horror and science fiction films. So that's what I love. And I think we talked about this many times, guys, where I talk about genre film, and I say why I think genre film, horror, sci-fi are some of the greatest vessels for storytelling is because you can have all the emotions in it. You can be sad, you can be happy, you can be depressed, you can be angry, you can be scared, you can be mystified. All these different emotions are encapsulated in what horror and sci-fi does. And that will always be the reason why I go back, and why I will always defend horror and sci-fi films, is because it allows us the opportunity to talk about things that we may not want to talk about, and explore ideas and opinions and all of these other pieces of what makes humanity so complicated, as well as so fascinating and so great. Horror and sci-fi can do that. So to me, that's my little soapbox of why I think horror and sci-fi is to me, in my humble opinion, the best genre.
Yeah, and also being so cognizant of all of those different nuances, I think, and making sure to put together a lineup that has explorations of these topics from all over the world, from every sort of, gender and race and sexual preference, obviously, and so on and so forth. In this case, like, it's one of the things I find so just exciting and fascinating about everything you put together. I mean, I've heard ups and downs about Jessica. It's the last thing, and before we segue over, is it more on the comedic side? It's about like a stalker following a girl, or how much more?
Well, Jessica, at a light 70-something minutes long for a movie, discusses basically in a comedic but also kind of a underlying, really unnerving way, what it's like as a woman to be stalked by, or to be enticed by somebody that you don't want to be enticed by. And it's the story about two friends who meet up, and you realize one of them has a obsessed, stalkish former boyfriend who just shows up unexpectedly at their home. And I'm not going to give away anything more than that, because there is a twist that happens in the movie, but that subject matter is played upon in a really great way in 70-something minutes to become something really, really interesting and really fascinating. And the performances, again, we have two lead performances that are fantastic. Direction feels like it's a film shot during pandemic, so you can almost feel like maybe there's only 5 to 10 people on set at a time. But the fact that they're able to make this story and move it so quickly through, and you get all these different ideas about what are going on. It's funny, it's humorous, it's charming, but it's also a little unnerving, and it also gives you an idea of like, wow, that there is a whole place, and I think about in terms of when we talk about being men, there are things men don't ever have to worry about. And, in this realm, having a stalker, having somebody who is going to continue to pursue you in a way that is unwanted, is definitely something that women have been dealing with, forever, much longer than I think men have ever had to identify with it.
Yeah, Nice. So
Agreed.
I was trying to just round it out with a little bit of a positive note, but so the last bit here is that distinction between showcase and then segueing into feature, which is where you said it is of the competitive variety. So there's 3 on each side between the horror and the sci-fi. I'll just start with the sci-fi, and as opposed to going into extensive detail about all 3, since once again time constraints and everything. So talking about something that looks like it was filmed during COVID, that would be No Tomorrow, in my estimation. It's another one where there is a kind of lots of it's a word that I'm looking for, almost like a host, or like just filming on like filming yourself and others on cameras, and thinking you're in some sort of time looping situation because our days were becoming so redundant and everything. And then in maybe a similar thing to others that I've seen lately, but I get the vibe from the trailer they're going to put their own spin on it. The Alternate, which is about finding an alternate dimension where a struggling filmmaker is all about like his life is perfect, and
the movie's called The Alternate.
It's called The Alternate. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, so it's him and his wife in their perfect scenario where everything.
Because I have a script called Alternate.
Yeah, and then and then back to Monty's point about a film that when I was struggling to find any sort of information about it, because it's a Chinese film called Mere Human Transcendent, and I searched the director's name, and I couldn't find any information, and so I had to really do some deep digging and everything. This one is from the Chinese perspective about replicants and how they find their place in our world and such. So out of these 3, and they're all drastically different in subject matter and tone and from budget, from what I saw with Mere Human, which one do you think like a genre fan would be the most about, if they're more on the horror side of things, I guess?
I think that's the interesting part, because I think like our showcase features where we have a little bit of everything, I think if you're a true genre fan, and you like all of these different horror films that are coming out and all these different pieces about what makes horror so great, I think there's something so positive about every one of them, because there is a little bit of horror in all of them. No Tomorrow is a time loop film, but it delves into that idea of isolation, right? When we were all during the pandemic stuck in this, stuck on Zoom. I still remember the first time I talked to somebody in person after having something like 50 Zoom meetings, and meeting somebody in the wild, as I like to call it, was like a dream. And it was so beautiful to have that opportunity. And, No Tomorrow explores that idea, that subject matter. When you talk about something like The Alternate also delves into that piece again as well too, where we talk about, this idea of loss and grief, and maybe not even grief because of death, but grief because we just have lost a detachment with humanity. We've lost a detachment with the people that are around us, and this grief of the old ways, right? When we could go to a movie theater and not have to worry about wearing a mask, when we could go to concerts and mosh with people and not worry about getting infected with any kind of crazy disease, right? So, The Alternate and No Tomorrow are your 2 films that are going to probably skate the lines of where a genre would end and meet, but they are still delving into those fears and anxieties. The Transcendent, Mirror Human Transcendent, is probably going to be your film that's going to be the most like in the pathway of what you would consider genre horror filmmaking, because it does take that idea of science and artificial humanity, and kind of puts them both together. And there's always something crazy about, something like, I always think about the first Terminator film. The first Terminator movie is a slasher.
Yeah, it is.
At its
100%.
Yeah. So, when you think about this idea of something unwanted but looks so humanistic being part of your life, there's something creepy and scary about that. And I think that's where the Mirror Transcendent really steps to and becomes that film. Mirror Human. Sorry, I keep saying Transcendent. But yeah, Mirror Human Transcendent.
Yeah, and I saw on the IMDb it's gone through so many title changes and stuff since I think it's from 2018 in China, if I remember correctly. So it's been around for a hot minute, but that's the one that I would definitely say kind of intrigues me the most, because it seems like it's like of a very large scale, and having watched a lot of these very personal sort of, trapped in, kind of isolation COVID sort of situation already, but that's not to knock the other ones, because I plan to make sure to check all 3 of them out. And then jumping into the scarific side of things, as I like to say. So I do have to preamble with crabs. Yeah, because
we just did a trailer reaction
reaction
to it last Sunday.
Yeah, and we were just like, okay, what sort of low budge business is this? But then as the trailer went on and we saw the scope of the sizing of how things were progressing, that was where we were just laughing and loving it. And it was
Kaiju crab.
Dude, it was our kind of schlock, 100%. And I could feel the humor. First time director, if I'm not mistaken, feature director at least. And yeah. What's up with crabs? I'll listen.
What's up with your crabs, Monty? Tell us about your crabs.
Oh, that's funny. Horseshoe crabs are the worst, and crabs definitely. There's really not much else to say. What you see in the trailer is exactly what it is. It's a film about giant horseshoe crabs that take over the seaside community. It's bloody, it's gory, it features kaiju-sized horseshoe crabs, and it wears a tumor on its sleeve, and it's exactly what you think it's going to be from the poster and the description and the trailer. You are seeing exactly what it is.
That poster
and I love
I
that.
have.
I love that.
That's the one poster I don't need. I have that from last week. I was actually excited because this was originally a Kickstarted movie, right? Or a funded movie?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but the fact that it was a crowd-funded film is exciting. By the way, I hope that you're going to lobby for Chris Stuckman's film when it's ready next year. Right, because he's
that's
crowdfunding
right.
that, and he's almost raised $600K for it. So,
well, just to jump to the last two, and round it all out. So
we've done good. We've got 2 in 10 minutes. Perfect.
I know. We're almost there though, because Monty has an out that we need to make sure to keep
hard out.
So okay,
Monty's a busy guy.
The next one that it's okay, since it has rockers in it, Monty, I had to I not like bands I'm the hugest fan of or anything, but you know the Retaliators is another of the features that'll be in the competition, and it feels a little less of the like straight up horror, but more so of like the horrors of real life. So the work of John Schwab lately has been I've been a big fan of, whether it was Body Brokers, whether it was Ida Red. I think he put out a couple movies last year that I really loved. He also did the one with Marilyn Manson, and I know he's on a lot of people's shit list for a horrible reason. I'll Make You a Martyr. But so that's just an example of the vibe I got from this trailer, in the fact that it felt very gritty, hence the term, Retaliators. There is something that goes down, and there is a big time sort of recompense that's going to happen. You've got the dude from Papa Roach. I think Ivan Moody is in Five Finger Death Punch, who used to sleep on Eric Braverman's couch back in the day before FFDP. But so
3 inches of blood too, right?
Yeah, I think so. At one point. So yeah, there is a cool rock connection. I know the guys who, or at least someone who helped produce The Dirt, the Motley Crue film, is involved with this. But I did watch the trailer, and based on that very grounded but yet the like bordering on bloody horror revenge subject matter, I was about it. I saw some other familiar faces of actors that I've seen in this sort of subgenre of like thriller, crime, horror, bordering sort of drama. What's up with this one as we round things out?
So Retaliators is based on its title, is a revenge film. It's at its core is a revenge film, but what makes it stand out apart from kind of all the other revenge films that are out there, and what it's trying to do new, is it's trying to establish kind of a new set of like rules to play by within the revenge tale. The cast is cameo filled, and if you're a hard rock, heavy metal fan, you're definitely gonna recognize a lot of faces in the film. The production value is super high in this film, so you definitely can see, there's been some time spent on finding locations and utilizing really ingenious sets. But yeah, it's the directors Bridget Smith and Samuel Gonzalez Jr. They do a great job of really kind of bringing this revenge tale together and giving it some substance as well too. There's a lot of depth that's in the film as well too, even for. I think a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, it's this movie that features a lot of cameos by all these musicians and stuff, but it's much more than that. There's some depth that's held into the film, and really does a great job of portraying this new idea of what a revenge film might be like.
Nice.
Cool. So it's not like a gimmicky parade or whatever. It actually has a solid story and something to say in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brandon Kitchen, our festival program manager for horror showcase stuff or horror competition stuff. He he spends a lot of time looking through every film. Like he's the one guy I know that will go back and watch movies 2 or 3 times before he finally puts his program together. And there's many times where he's called me up and been like, "Hey Monty, any chance that we could have 4, or can we have 5, or can we have 6 this year?" And that just shows like how competitive those spots are, and the fact that I know Brandon takes a lot of time and he's very talented at what he does. I know he spent a lot of time deliberating over what his 3 films in the competition showcase was going to be. So, but yeah, Retaliators, definitely a movie that I think people should put on the radar because it is very well done. And again, if you're a fan of heavy metal rock bands, this is definitely a movie you're going to love to watch.
Well, to round out the music connection then here as we pretty much end the proceedings is a film called Bashira. And so another one with a music connection because it's a electronic musician, and at least from the trailer that I saw, there's like kind of a ghost story possibility, but with like a person that another character he speaks with within the trailer knows. And I know there's an obsessive fan angle and everything, but I think that where it's I'm not sure if they filmed it in Japan, but it's that connection of the fact that Americans seemingly in another part of the world. I'm not sure if that's true or not. That was just kind of what I ascertained from the trailer. But and Japanese kind of horror folklore, which we know has been so popular with stuff like The Grudge and Rangu and such. So just the tiniest bit about this before we let you go, man.
So the film is basically surrounds an electronic music musician and his troubled, like, obsessive fan, who both get kind of plunged into this hallucinogenic world, this nightmare, where they must confront like a Japanese entity. And in order to do that, they have to, they're going to confront this entity, and it's all a fight for their souls. But it's, again, like, I think like with kind of most of the films that we have going through it, there's always something more than what's on the synopsis page. Some greater depth that we're going into. And again, like you mentioned, toxic fandom, how people feel like we're connected to these people, how celebrity, like how people feel like, oh, well, I see them on screen so much, I feel like I know them, so I can talk to them and treat them like I know them for years, and how weird that can be for people that, are strangers, when you confront your celebrity hero and you're talking to them like you've known them for 20 years, which you may have through their films, or through their music, but you've only met them for 2 seconds, right? And how strange that encounter could be. There's a lot of that is kind of intertwined into this film as well too. But yeah, the culture, the Japanese culture, the folklore, the mythology behind the Japanese entity are all really well developed. There's some great performances as well too. So that's the best part about these competition films is they are so different. Like while 2 films may use music as kind of the meeting point for how they might connect, they both tackle different subject matters in different ways. And then you have Crabs, which is on its own island of itself, doing its own thing. But that's the joy of film festivaling is you get a wide breadth of films that you can watch, and we try really hard not to make sure that you're not going to have 2 of the same things.
Yeah, and so from tone and topic, respectively, I think that the 3 tour stuff that y'all have programmed looks incredibly intriguing, and I'm hoping that this guy will join me for all 3 of those. And
I'm excited to, as long as I can.
And then anybody who is intrigued and if you're anywhere in the Southwest, anywhere in the Arizona area, or might be between March 31st and April 10th, so you've got 2 respective weekends. A lot of these replay. If you go to the PhoenixFilmFestival.com and check out the schedule, we'll
put a link in the description box for the episode, so you guys can just click the link to get your tickets.
Yeah, build your schedule. See what's feasible, because there's a lot. If you're really vigilant, you can, as I often aspire to, check out everything that Monty and his awesome team always offers. So.
Exactly.
You know, just keep you guys updated. Hypochondriac is the only film that we have one showing of, and that's the second Saturday, so that'll be the only time that it plays. So for if you really want to make sure that you're watching all the films that we have programmed, just realize Hypochondriac's the one film that we only play once. We have a wealth of events. We are back to in person this year. We were in person last time, but we didn't have the big parties and the big events. We have an opening night again. We have parties every night.
Is industry night again?
Industry night as well. Yeah, we'll have all those pieces are back again. We have the big tent is back again outside. So the big tent's back. We have filmmaker Q&As. We have educational seminars. We're doing some new ticketing events where you can basically go for 90 minutes and learn about the process of producing a feature film on a low budget, or understand the ideas of like what goes into narrative design or what it takes to get your film off the ground. We have all these different avenues for people to explore. If you are at that point in the day, which sometimes it does happen, day 3 or day 4, you're like, man, I've seen 20 something movies in 3 days. I can't sit in front of a screen and eat a nacho lunch or a popcorn dinner again. So let's go grab a bite to eat at one of the great restaurants that we have around, and maybe go sit down and listen to some filmmakers talk. So we're really excited to be back to that and having that opportunity to bring the education and the movies and all these great things to the community again. That's our goal. And without the people in the movie theaters and the film fans coming out to stuff, we don't exist. And we know that's a real thing. And at one point in time during COVID, we all face that jeopardy of losing these things that we love so much. So we're happy and grateful to be back again. And I advise anybody who's a fan of movies, come to the film festival, because you're going to see things you might not see other places, and even better, you have the opportunity to meet somebody that might be your new best friend in movies. You might meet that actor that is going to be the star of that short film you want to make, or it may be the inspiration for you to start your own podcast and start doing it as well too. So, but yeah.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining us once again, Monty. We are very excited about the film festival once again this year. So, guys, that is the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival, the sub-branch of the Phoenix Film Festival for now. And we are excited to see what you have on offer. And I don't know, Fuego, any last words from you?
No, we're just always humbled and honored to be a part of the process. It's still, I love Phoenix Fan Fusion, Comic-Con, whatever they call it, and Mad Monster and various other, things that we cover over every year. But this is still my favorite. It is the whole discovering your new favorite movie thing, or at least something that Cecil will clamor about. Why the hell can't I get a DVD about this particular movie?
I'll keep complaining. I'll keep complaining. So thank you very much for joining us once again, Monty. We greatly appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So until next time, you guys, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
That has been Monte Yazzie. Make sure you click the link in the description box down below to check out how you can watch these films. But until next time, remember, stay scared.